Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah.
Today is a momentous day. We're starting the 7th canto. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Hare Bol. The science of God. Yes. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, chapter 1. The Supreme Lord is equal to everyone. King Parikshit inquired, "My dear Brahmana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu, being everyone's well-wisher, is equal and extremely dear to everyone. How then did he become partial, like a common man, for the sake of Indra, and thus kill Indra's enemies? How can a person equal to everyone be partial to some and inimical towards others?" Purport. In Gita 9:29, the Lord says, "Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dvesho stina priyaha." I am equal to everyone. No one is dear to me, nor is anyone my enemy. In the previous canto, however, it has been observed that the Lord sided with Indra by killing the demons on his account. Hattaputratiti Shakra Parshni Grahena Vishnuna. Therefore the Lord was clearly partial to Indra, although he is the super soul in everyone's heart. The soul is extremely dear to everyone, and similarly the super soul is also dear to everyone. Thus there cannot be any faulty action on the part of the super soul. The Lord is always kind to all living entities, irrespective of form and situation. Yet he took the side of Indra just like an ordinary friend. This was the subject of Parikshit Maharaja's inquiry. As a devotee of Lord Krishna, he knew very well that Krishna cannot be partial to anyone, but when he saw that Krishna acted as the enemy of the demons, he was somewhat doubtful. Therefore he posed this question to Shukadeva Goswami for a clear answer. A devotee cannot accept that Lord Vishnu has material qualifications. Maharaj Parikshit knew perfectly well that Lord Vishnu, being transcendental, has nothing to do with material qualities. But to confirm his conviction, he wanted to hear from the authority, Shukadeva Goswami. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, "Samasya gatam vaishamyam." Since the Lord is equally disposed toward everyone, how can he be partial? Priyasya gatam asureshu prityabhava. The Lord, being the super soul, is extremely dear to everyone. Why then should the Lord display unsympathetic behavior toward the asuras? How is this impartial? Shuridas chakatam te shasau haradam. Since the Lord says that he is suridam sarvabhutanam, the well-wisher of all living entities, how could he act with partiality by killing demons? These questions arose in the heart of Parikshit Maharaj and inquired from Shukadeva Goswami. Text 2. Lord Vishnu himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the reservoir of all pleasure. For what benefit would he derive from demigods? Would he fulfill in this way? Since the Lord is transcendental, why should he fear the asuras, and how could he be envious of them? Purport. We should always remember the distinction between spiritual and material. That which is material is infected by material qualities, but these qualities cannot touch that which is spiritual or transcendental. Krishna is absolute, whether he is in the material world or spiritual world. When we see partiality in Krishna, This vision is due to his external energy. Otherwise, how could his enemies attain salvation after being killed by him? Everyone who deals with the Supreme Personality of Godhead gradually acquires the qualities of the Lord. The more one advances in spiritual consciousness, the less he is affected by the duality of material qualities. The Supreme Lord, therefore, must certainly be free from these qualities. His enmity and friendship are external features presented by the material. He is also transcendental. He is absolute, whether he kills or bestows his favor. Envy and friendship arise in one who, because in the material world we are always in need of help. The Lord, however, does not need anyone's help, for he is Atma Rama. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 9:26, Patram pushpam palam toyam yome bhaktya priyachchiti tadaham bhaktu paritam ashnami priyatanaha. If a devotee offers me with devotion a little leaf, a flower, fruit or water, I shall accept it. Why does the Lord say this? Is he dependent on the offering of the devotee? He is not actually dependent, but he likes to be dependent upon his devotee. This is his mercy. Similarly, he does not fear the asuras. Thus there is no question of partiality in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 3. O greatly fortunate Brahmana, whether Narayana is partial or impartial has become a subject of great doubt. Kindly dispel my doubt with positive evidence that Narayana is always neutral and equal to everyone. Purport. Since Lord Narayana is absolute, his transcendental qualities are described as one. Thus his punishments and his offerings of favor are both of the same value. Essentially, his inimical actions are not displays of enmity toward his so-called enemies. In the field, one thinks that Krishna is favorable to devotees and unfavorable to non-devotees. When Krishna finally instructs in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja, this is meant not only for Arjuna, but for every living entity within this universe. Text 4 and 5. The great sage Shukadeva Goswami said, My dear king, you have put before me an excellent question. Discourses concerning the activities of the Lord, in which the glories of his devotees are also found, are extremely pleasing to devotees. Such wonderful topics always counteract the miseries of the materialistic way of life. Therefore great sages like Narada always speak upon Srimad Bhagavatam because it gives one the facility to hear and chant about the wonderful activities of the Lord. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Vyasadeva and then begin describing topics concerning the activities of Lord Hari. Purport. In this verse, Shukadeva Goswami offers his respectful obeisance Krishna Dvaipara Vyas. One must first offer one's respectful obeisances to one's spiritual master. Shukadeva Goswami's spiritual master is his father, Vyasadeva. Therefore, he first offers his respectful obeisance to Krishna Dvaipara Vyas, and then begins describing topics of Lord Hari. Whenever there is an opportunity to hear about the transcendental activities of the Lord, we must take it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends Kirtani Yak Sada Hari. One should always engage in Krishna Katha by chanting and talking about Krishna and hearing about him. That is the only occupation of a Krishna conscious person. Shall I repeat that again? Just to make sure we got it. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends Kirtani Yak Sada Hari. One should always engage in Krishna Katha by chanting and talking about Krishna and hearing about him. That is the only occupation of a Krishna conscious person.
Text number 6. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, is always transcendental to material qualities, and therefore he is called nirguna, or without qualities. Because he is unborn, he doesn't have a material body to be subjected to attachment and hatred. Although the Lord is always above material existence, through his spiritual potency he appeared and acted like an ordinary human being, accepting duties and obligations, apparently like a conditioned soul. Purport: so-called attachment, detachment, and obligations pertain to the material nature, which is an emanation from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whenever the Lord descends and acts in this material world, he does so in his spiritual position. Although his activities materially appear different, spiritually they are absolute and non-different. Thus, it is an imposition upon the Supreme Lord to say that he is envious of anyone or friendly to anyone. In Bhagavad Gita 9:11, the Lord clearly says, Avajananti ma mudha manushim tanumashritam. Fools deride me when I descend in a human form. Krishna appears on this earth or within this universe without any change in his spiritual body or spiritual qualities. Indeed, he is never influenced by the material qualities. He is always free from such qualities, but he appears to act under material influence. This understanding is aropata, or an imposition. Therefore, Krishna says, Janma karma te me dibham. Whatever he does, being always transcendental, has nothing to do with material qualities. Evam yo veti tattvataha. Only devotees can understand the truth of how he acts. The fact is that Krishna is never partial to anyone. He is always equal to everyone. But because of imperfect vision, influenced by material qualities, one imposes material qualities upon Krishna, and when one does so, he becomes amudha, a fool. When one can properly understand the truth, one becomes devoted and nirguna, free from material qualities. Simply by understanding the activities of Krishna, one can become transcendental, and as soon as one is transcendental, he is fit to be transferred to the transcendental world. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti sorjuna. One who understands the activities of the Lord in truth is transferred to the spiritual world after he gives up his material body. Text 7. My dear King Parikshit, the material qualities Sattvaguna, Rajaguna, and Tamaguna all belong to the material world and do not even touch the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These three gunas cannot act by increasing or decreasing simultaneously. Purport: the original position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one of equality. There is no question of his being influenced by Sattvagun, Rajagun, or Tamagun, for these material qualities cannot touch the Supreme Lord. The Lord is therefore called the Supreme Ishvara. What's he called? Ishvara Parama Krishna. He is the Supreme Controller. He controls the material qualities. Daivahiyesha gunamayi mama maya. Mayadakshena prakriti suyate. The material nature, prakriti, works under his order. How then can he be under the qualities of prakriti? Krishna is never influenced by the material qualities. Therefore, there is no question of partiality in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text number 8. When the quality of goodness is prominent, the sages and demigods flourish with the help of that quality with which they are infused and surcharged by the Supreme Lord. Similarly, when the mode of passion is prominent, the demons flourish. And when ignorance is prominent, the yakshas and rakshasas flourish. This supports one's heart, fostering the reaction of Sattva and Tamaguna. Purport: the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not partial to anyone. The conditioned soul is under the influence of the various modes of material nature, and behind material nature is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But one's victory and loss under the influence of Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun are reactions of these modes, not of the Supreme Lord's partiality. Srila Jiva Goswami in the Bhagavata Sandarbha has clearly said, Satvada yo na santishe yatra cha prakrita guna sashudha sarva shudebhya pumam adya prasidatu hladini sandani samvit twayeka sarva samstitao hlada tapa kari mishra twayi no guna varjate. According to this statement of the Bhagavata Sandarbha, the Supreme Lord, being always transcendental to the material qualities, is never affected by the influence of these qualities. This same characteristic is also present in the living being, but because he is conditioned by material nature, even the pleasure potency of the Lord is manifested in the conditioned material world. Pleasure enjoyed by the conditioned soul is followed by many painful conditions. For instance, we have seen that in the two great wars, which were conducted by the Rajoguna and Tamoguna, both parties were actually ruined. The German people declared war against the English to ruin them, but the result was that both parties were ruined. Although the Allies were apparently victorious, at least on paper, actually neither of them were victorious. Therefore, it should be concluded that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not partial to anyone. Everyone works under the influence of various modes of material nature, and when the various modes are prominent, the demigods or demons appear victorious under the influence of these modes. Everyone enjoys the fruits of his qualitative activities. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 14.11 through 13. Sarvadvareshu dehesmin prakasha upajayate jnanam yada tada vidyad vivridham satvamityuta loba pratirarambha karmanam ashramaspriha rajasyetani jayante vivride bharatarshaba prakasho pravritischa pramado moha evacha tamasyetani jayante vivride kurunandana. The manifestations of the modes of goodness can be experienced when all the gates of the body are illumined by knowledge. O chief of the Bharatas, when there is an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, uncontrollable desire, hankering, and intense endeavor develop. O son of Kuru, when there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, man, inertia, and darkness are manifested. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present in everyone's heart, simply gives the of the increase in the various qualities, but he is impartial. He supervises victory and loss, but he does not take part in it. The various modes of material nature do not work all at once. The interactions of these modes are exactly like seasonal changes. Sometimes there is an increment of Rajagun, sometimes of Tamogun, and sometimes Sattvagun. Generally, the demigods are surcharged with Sattvaguna, and therefore, when the demons and the demigods fight, the demigods are victorious because of the prominence of their Sattvagun qualities. However, this is not partiality of the Supreme Lord. Text number 9. The all-pervading personality of Godhead exists within the heart of every living being, and an expert thinker can perceive how he is present there to a large or small extent, just as one can understand the supply of fire in wood, the water in a water pot, or the sky within a pot. One can understand whether a living entity is a demon or a demigod by understanding that living entity's devotional performances. A thoughtful and how much a person is favored by the Supreme Lord by seeing his actions. Purport in Bhagavad Gita 10.41, the Lord says, Yad yad vimutimat sattvam shrimad urjitam evava tat tadeva vagachatvam mama tenchom shasambhavam. Know that all beautiful, glorious, and mighty creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. We have the practical experience of seeing that one person is able to do very wonderful things, whereas another cannot do those same things and cannot even do things that require only a little common sense. Therefore, how much a devotee has been favored by the Supreme Personality of God, it can be tested by the activities in the devotee activities the devotee has performed. In Bhagavad Gita 10, the Lord also says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam briti purvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam mam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted and who worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they come to me. This is very practical. A teacher instructs the student if the student is capable of taking more and more instructions. Otherwise, in spite of being instructed by the teacher, the student cannot make strides in his understanding. This has nothing to do with partiality. When Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam, this indicates that Krishna is prepared to give bhakti yoga to everyone, but one must be capable of receiving it. That is the secret. Thus, when a person exhibits wonderful devotional activities, a thoughtful man understands that Krishna has been more favorable to this devotee. This is not difficult to understand, but envious persons do not accept that Krishna has bestowed his favor upon a particular devotee in accordance with his advanced position. Such foolish persons become envious and try to minimize an advanced devotee's activities. That is not Vaishnavism. A Vaishnava should appreciate the service rendered to the Lord by other Vaishnavas. Therefore, a Vaishnava is described in Srimad Bhagavatam as Nirmatsara. Vaishnavas are never envious of other Vaishnavas or of anyone else, and therefore they are called Nirmatsaranam Satam. As Bhagavad Gita informs us, one can understand how one is saturated with sattva gun, rajagun, or tamagun. In the examples given herewith, fire represents the mode of understanding the constitution of a container for wood, petrol, or other inflammable substances by the quantity of the fire. Similarly, water represents rajagun, the mode of passion. A small skin and the vast Atlantic Ocean both contain water, and by seeing the quantity of water in a container, one can understand the size of the container. The sky represents the mode of ignorance. The sky is present in a small earthen pot and also in outer space. Thus, by proper judgment, one can see who is a devata, or demigod, and who is an asura, yaksha, or rakshasa, according to the qualities of sattva gun and tamagun. One cannot judge if a person is a devata, an asura, or a rakshasa by seeing him, but a sane man can understand this by the activities such a person performs. A general description is given in the Padma Purana. Vishnu bhakta smrito daiva asuras tadviparya. A devotee of Lord Vishnu is a demigod, whereas an asura or yaksha is just the opposite. There you have it. An asura is not a devotee of Lord Vishnu. Instead, for his sense gratification, he is a devotee of the demigods, bhutas, pretas, and so on. Thus one can judge who is a devata, who is a rakshasa, and who is an asura by how they conduct their activities. The word atman in this verse means paramatmanam. The Paramatma, or Supersoul, is situated in the core of everyone's heart. Antataha. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hridesharjuna tishtati. The Ishvara, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, being situated in everyone's heart, gives directions to everyone in terms of one's capabilities in taking the instructions. The instructions of Bhagavad Gita are open to everyone, but some people understand them properly, whereas others understand them so improperly that they cannot even believe in the existence of Krishna, although reading Krishna's book. Although the Gita says Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, indicating that Krishna spoke, but understand Krishna due to their misfortune. This is to their misfortune or incapability, which is caused by Rajoguna and Tamoguna, the modes of passion and ignorance. It is because of these modes that they cannot even understand Krishna, whereas an advanced devotee like Arjuna understands him and glorifies him, saying, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan. You are the Supreme Brahman, the Supreme Abode and Purifier. Krishna is open to everyone, but one needs the key ability to understand him. By external features, one cannot understand who is favored by Krishna and who is not. According to one's attitude, Krishna becomes one's direct advisor, or Krishna becomes unknown. This is not Krishna's partiality. It is his response to understand him. According to one's receptiveness, whether Asura, Yaksha, or Rakshasa, Krishna's quality is proportionately exhibited. This proportionate exhibition of Krishna's power is misunderstood by less intelligent men to be Krishna's partiality. But actually, it is no such thing. Krishna is equal to everyone, and according to one's ability to receive the favor of Krishna, advances in Krishna consciousness. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives a practical example in this connection. In the sky there are many luminaries. At night, even in darkness, the moon is extremely brilliant and can be directly perceived. The sun is also extremely brilliant. When covered by clouds, however, these luminaries are not distinctly visible. Which luminaries are not distinctly visible?
Covered by clouds.
Which ones? Which luminaries?
The sun. The sun.
You have to increase your appreciating capacity. Similarly, the more one advances in sattva-guna, the more his brilliance is exhibited by devotional service. But the more one is covered by rajaguna and tamaguna, the less visible his brilliance, for he is covered by these qualities. The visibility of one's qualities does not depend on the partiality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is due to various coverings in different proportions. Thus one can understand how far he has advanced in terms of guna and how much by rajoguna and tamaguna. 10. It's very masterpiece. Should I go on?
Yes.
You want to just stop right now?
No!
When the Supreme Personality of Godhead creates different types of bodies, offering a particular body to each living entity according to his character and fruit of actions, the Lord revives all the qualities of material nature. Okay, let's start over. Something happened. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead creates different types of bodies, offering a particular body to each living entity according to his character and fruit of actions, the Lord revives all the qualities of material nature, sattva-gun, rajagun, and tamaguna. Then as a supersoul he enters each body and influences the qualities of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, using sattva-gun for maintenance, rajagun for creation, and tamaguna for annihilation. Purport. Although material nature is conducted by the three qualities which are, nature is not independent. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 9:10, Maya dakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam hetunanina kaunteya jagad viparivartate. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. The different changes in this material world take place as actions and reactions of the three gunas. But above the three gunas is their director, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the various types of bodies given to the living entities by material nature, yantra, rudhani, maya, ya, either sattva guna, rajaguna, or tamaguna is prominent. The body is produced by material nature according to the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore it is said here, Yada Shishikshu Pura Atmana Para, indicating that the body is certainly created by the Lord. Karmana Daiva Netrena. According to the karma of the living entity, a body is prepared under the Supreme Lord's supervision. Whether the body is of sattva-gun, rajagun, and tamagun, everything is done by the direction of the Supreme Lord through the agency of the external energy, prataksva mayaya. In this way, the different types of bodies, the Lord Ishvara, gives directions as Paramatma, and again, to destroy the body, he employs the tamaguna. This is the way the living entities receive different types of bodies.
Text 11. O great king, The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the controller of the material and spiritual energies, who is certainly the creator of the entire cosmos, creates a time factor to allow the material energy and the living entity to act within the limits of time. Thus, the Supreme Personality is never under the time factor, nor under the material energy. Purport. One should not think that the Lord is dependent on the time factor. He actually creates the situation by which material nature acts, and by which the conditioned soul is placed under material nature. Both the conditioned soul and the material nature act within the time factor, but the Lord is not subject to the actions and reactions of time. For time has been created by Him. To be more clear, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that creation, maintenance, and annihilation are all under the supreme will of the Lord. In Bhagavad Gita 4:7, the Lord says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutana madharmasya tadatmanam shrijamyaham. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Since Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the controller of everything, when He appears, He is not within the limitations of material time. Janma karma chame divyam. In this verse, the words kalam charantam sajati sha'ashrayam indicate that although the Lord acts within time, whether sattvaguna, rajaguna, or tamaguna is prominent, one should not think that the Lord is under time's control. Time is within His control, for He creates time to act in a certain way. He is not working under the control of time. The creation of the material world is one of the Lord's pastimes. Everything is fully under His control. Since creation takes place when Rajaguna is prominent, the Lord creates the necessary time to give facilities for Rajaguna. Similarly, He also creates the necessary times for maintenance and annihilation. Thus this verse establishes that the Lord is not under the limitations of time. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Krishna is the supreme controller, Satchidananda Vigraha. He possesses a blissful spiritual body, Anadi. He is not subordinate to anything. As the Lord confirms in Bhagavad Gita 7:7, Mattak Parananam Nanyat Kinchidasti Dhananjaya. O conqueror of wealth, Arjuna, there is no truth superior to me. Nothing can be above Krishna, for He is the controller and creator of everything. The Mayavadi philosophers say that this material world is mithya, false, and that one should therefore not bother about this mithya, creation, Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya. But this is not correct. Here it is said, Satyakrit, whatever is created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Satyam Param, cannot be called mithya. The cause of the creation is satya, true. So how can the effect of the cause be mithya? The very word Satyakrit is used to establish that everything created by the Lord is factual, never false. The creation may be temporary, but it is not false. Text 12. O king, this time factor enhances the Sattvaguna. Thus, although the Supreme Lord is the controller, He favors the demigods, who are mostly situated in Sattvaguna. Then the demons, who are influenced by Tamaguna, are annihilated. The Supreme Lord induces the time factor to act in different ways, but He is never partial. Rather, His activities are glorious, and therefore He is called Urushvava. Purport. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, Samoham sarvabhuteshu name dvesho stina priyaha. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I am equal to all. The Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be partial. He is always equal to everyone. Therefore, when the demigods are favored and the demons killed, this is not his partiality, but the influence of the time factor. The influence of what?
Time factor.
Just checking to see. A good example in this regard is that an electrician connects both a heater and a cooler to the same electrical energy. The cause of the heating and cooling is the electrician's manipulation of electrical energy according to his desire. But factually, the electrician has nothing to do with causing heat or cold, nor with the enjoyment or suffering that results. It got cold all of a sudden one night, didn't it? It's Krishna's. Krishna Maharaj told me that it snowed huge, in the Himalayas just above us. So the air carried that. It's like Krishna's air conditioning system. That's how come it got cold all of a sudden one day.
Krishna's impartial, but he made it snow. And then the air has its own choice which way it goes.
It doesn't.
It's not Krishna's.
There have been many historical incidents in which the Lord killed a demon, but the demon attained a higher position by the mercy of the Lord. So he's not under control. He's not under control of it. Putana is an example. Putana's purpose was to kill Krishna. A whole Bhakiyam Stanakalam Kutam. She approached the house of Nanda Maharaj with the purpose of killing Krishna by smearing poison on her breast. Yet when she was killed, she attained the highest position, achieving the status of Krishna's mother. Krishna is so kind and impartial that because he sucked Putana's breast, he immediately accepted her as his mother. This superfluous activity of killing Putana did not diminish the Lord's impartiality. He is Suridam, Sarvabhutanam, the friend of everyone. Therefore, partiality cannot apply to the character of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who always maintains his position as the Supreme Controller. The Lord killed Putana as an enemy, but because of his being the Supreme Controller, she attained an exalted position as his mother. Srila Madhva Muni therefore remarks, Kale kala vishaye pishita dehadi karanat vad suranikam ivastitam satvam. Ordinarily, a murderer is hanged, and in the Manu Samhita it is said that a king bestows mercy upon a murderer by killing him, thus saving him from various kinds of suffering. Because of his sinful activities, such a murderer is killed by the mercy of the king. Krishna, the supreme judge, deals with matters in a similar way because he is the supreme controller. The conclusion, therefore, is that the Lord is always impartial and always very kind to all living entities. Well, there you have it. Text 13. Formerly, O king, when Maharaja Yudhishthira was performing the Rajasuya sacrifice, the great sage Narada, responding to his inquiry, recited historical facts showing how the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always impartial, even when killing demons. In this regard, he gave a vivid example. Purport. This relates to how the Lord exhibited his impartiality even when killing Shishupal in the arena of the Rajasuya Yajna performed by Maharaj Yudhishthira. Text 14 and 15. O king, at the Rajasuya sacrifice, Maharaj Yudhishthira, the son of Maharaj Pandu, personally saw Shishupal merge into the body of the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Therefore, struck with wonder, he inquired about the reason for this. from the great sage Narada, who was seated there. While he inquired, all the sages present also heard him ask his question.
Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired, "It is very wonderful that the demon Shishupal merged into the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, even though extremely envious. This Sayuja Mukti is impossible to attain even for great transcendentalists. How then did the enemy of the Lord attain it?" Purport. There transcendentalists, Jnani. The Bhaktas do not aspire to merge into the existence of the Lord, but the Jnanis do. Shishupal, however, was neither a Jnani nor a Bhakta, yet simply by envy of the Lord he attained an exalted position of merging into the Lord's body. Certainly this was astonishing, and therefore Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired about the cause for the Lord's mysterious mercy to Shishupal. 17. O great sage, we are all eager to know the cause for this mercy of the Lord. I have heard that formerly a king named Vena blasphemed the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and that all the Brahmanas consequently obliged him to go to hell. Shishupal should also have been sent to hell. How then did he merge into the Lord's existence? From the very beginning of his childhood, when he could not even speak properly, Shishupal, the most sinful son of Dhamaghosh, began blaspheming the Lord, and he continued to be envious of Sri Krishna until death. Similarly, his brother Dantavakra continued the same habits. 19. Although these two men, Shishupal and Dantavakra, repeatedly blasphemed the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, Krishna, the Supreme Brahman, they were quite healthy. Indeed, their tongues were not attacked by white leprosy, nor did they enter the darkest region of hellish life. We are certainly most surprised by this. Purport. Krishna is described by Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita 10:12 as follows. Param Brahma, Param Thama, Pavitram Paramam Bhavan. You are the Supreme Brahman, the Supreme Abode and Purifier. Herein, this is confirmed. Vishnum Yad Brahma Param Avyayam. The Supreme Vishnu is Krishna. Krishna is the cause of Vishnu, not vice versa. Similarly, Brahman is not the cause of Krishna. Krishna is the cause of Brahman. Therefore, Krishna is the Para-Brahman. Yad Brahma Param Avyayam. 20. How is it possible for Shishupal and Dantavakra, in the presence of many exalted persons, to enter very easily into the body of Krishna, whose nature is difficult to attain? Purport. Shishupal and Dantavakra, who?
Shishupal and Dantavakra.
Were formerly Jai and Vijay. Were formerly who?
Jai and Vijay.
The doorkeepers of Vaikuntha. Merging into the body of Krishna was not their final destination. For some time they remained merged, and later they received the liberations of Sarupya and Salokya, living on the planet as the Lord in the same bodily form. The Shastras give evidence that if one blasphemes the Supreme Lord, his punishment is to remain in hellish life for many millions of years, more than one suffers by killing many brahmanas. Shishupal, however, instead of entering hellish life, immediately and very easily received Sayuja Mukti. That such a privilege had been offered to Shishupal was not merely a story. Everyone saw it happen. There was no scarcity of evidence. How did it happen? Maharaj Yudhishthira. What? How did it happen? Maharaj Yudhishthira was very much surprised. What was that? Oh, how did it happen? Okay. Inquiring minds want to know. I really want to hear the answer to this question. Yes. Absolutely. On a scale of 10. 17. 72. 72. 96. What do I get? You got a good audience out there.
Text 21. And here we go. This matter is undoubtedly very wonderful. Indeed, my intelligence has become disturbed, just as the flame of a candle is disturbed by a blowing wind. O Narada Muni, you know everything. Kindly let me know the cause of this wonderful event. Purport. The Shastras enjoin Tad Vijnanartam Sagurum Imabhigachet. When one is perplexed by the difficult problems of life, to solve them, one must approach a guru, like Narada, or his representative in the disciplic succession. Maharaja Yudhishthira therefore requested Narada to explain the cause for such a wonderful event. Text 22. Shukadeva Goswami said, after hearing the request of Maharaja Yudhishthira, Muni, the most spiritual master, who knew everything, was very pleased. Thus he replied in the presence of everyone taking part in the yajna. 23. The great Sri Naradaji said, O king, blasphemy and praise, chastisement and respect are experienced because of ignorance. The body of the conditioned soul is planned by the Lord for suffering in the material world through the agency of the external energy. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 1861 it is said, Ishvara sarvabhutanam riddhicharjuna tishtati brahmayan sarvabhutani yantrarudani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of material energy. A material body is manufactured by the external energy according to the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The conditioned soul, being seated on this machine, wanders throughout the universe, and because of his bodily conception of life, he only suffers. Actually, the suffering of being blasphemed and the enjoyment of being praised, the acceptance of good welcome or of chastisement by harsh words, are felt in the material conception of life. But since the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not material, but Satchidananda Vigraha, he is unaffected by insults or greetings, blasphemy, or prayers. Being always unaffected and complete, he does not feel extra pleasure when offered nice prayers by the devotee, although the devotee benefits by offering prayers to the Lord. Indeed, the Lord is very kind to his so-called enemy, because one who always thinks of the personality of Godhead as an enemy also benefits, although he thinks of the Lord adversely. If a conditioned soul, thinking of the Lord as an enemy or a friend, somehow or other becomes attached to the Lord, he receives great benefit. Text 24.
It seems like a theme throughout this, all that we have been reading, that to be absorbed in duality is a symptom of ignorance, right? I mean, it's in Bhagavad Gita as well. I find generally that a lot of temples we go to, there is so much dissatisfaction in some places in Europe, that the devotees are caught in duality, blasphemy, and grudges and all these kinds of things. And anyway, I'm just wondering that at the same time the devotee is not indifferent, and we need some appreciation. Most devotees, we need some appreciation to move on. So, what is the balance? What is the balance between being callous or indifferent to everything that goes around you as a devotee? I mean, the platform that is being expressed here is not entirely clear to me.
What's the exact question?
The exact question is that we are supposed to be not caught in duality. At the same time, we're sentient beings, and therefore, like we see Prabhupada, he was moved by so many different emotions, and we see pictures of Prabhupada expressing so many different emotions. So what does it actually mean to be unaffected by duality? Like is described here in this verse, that the devotee is not, caught with blasphemy, praise, chastisement. It was more than one sentence. Sorry.
What does it mean to be beyond duality when you're a sentient being with feelings? You had your hand up. Go ahead.
Did I? Well, it's pretty obvious that emotions, the soul is made of emotions. The soul is made of desire. So it's not possible for a soul not to show emotions or feel desire. It's the orientation of the emotions or the desire. So if you're disturbed because something is happening to you that appears to be toward or untoward, then that means you're being influenced by the modes of nature. But if, for instance, someone, blasphemes a devotee or Krishna, and you see it, and you don't feel emotion, you don't feel whatever, then you're in Maya. So it isn't that being equipoised means that you don't feel anything. That's an impersonal concept. We naturally feel emotions, but it's the orientation of the emotions, whether they are being utilized to satisfy Krishna or to, arrange some satisfaction for myself. And the other thing is that Prabhupada used to show a lot of emotions. Yeah, he did, because sometimes he was feeling very deep compassion for others when he was looking at them. And you could see, even materialistic men would look at Prabhupada's face sometimes and see that looked like he was suffering, or looked like he was distressed. He was. He was seeing the fallen condition of the souls and suffering of others. Paradukha-dukhi. Paradukha-dukhi means when you see somebody happy, you're happy, and when you see somebody distressed, you feel distressed. How am I doing so far?
I'm fine.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
Did I blow it big time? Does that answer the question?
Envy. Prabhupada uses it pretty broadly, the word. And maybe we could just, I could hear again what again he means by envy in such a broad context. Well, it's a word that's used a lot, and okay. Well, when Parikshit Maharaj was inquiring that how can the Lord, be impartial, he was saying it seems like he's envious. It says, he seems like he's envious towards the asuras. That's one example, but there's many examples where the word envy is used almost in the sense of like hate or despise or something like that. So is that basically what it means?
There's two meanings to it. There's an archaic meaning that's not used much anymore, and it means to have some dislike towards somebody, even malice.
Malice.
It says malice. This means you don't like them too much. Okay?
I like the way you're succinct. I like it too much. Essential truth spoken concisely is true eloquence. I'm still reading. No, I'm still reading. Yeah, I'm still doing. Don't worry, I'm here. Don't worry. It'll happen. Are you trying to push me? My dear king, my dear king, the condition of being in the bodily conception of life considers his body to be himself and considers everything in relationship with the body to be his. Because he has the conception of life, he is subjected to dualities like praise and chastisement. That's pretty clear. Purport. Only when a conditioned soul accepts the body as himself does he feel the effects of chastisement or praise. When he determines one person to be his enemy and another his friend, and wants to chastise the enemy and welcome the friend, then he determines one person to be his enemy and another his friend, and wants to chastise the enemy and welcome his friend, the friend. Creation of friends and enemies is a result of one's bodily conception of life. Text 25. Because of the bodily conception of life, the conditioned soul thinks that when the body is annihilated, the living being is annihilated. Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the Supreme Controller, the Supersoul of all living entities. Because he has no material body, he has no false conception of I and mine. It is therefore incorrect to think that he feels pleasure or pain when blasphemed or offered prayers. This is impossible for him. Thus he has no enemy and no friend. When he chastises the demons, it is for their good, and when he accepts the prayers of the devotees, it is for their good. He is affected neither by prayers nor by blasphemy. Purport. Because of being covered by material bodies, the conditioned souls, including even greatly learned scholars and falsely educated professors, all think that as soon as the body is finished, everything is finished. This is due to their bodily conception of life. Krishna has no such bodily conception, nor is his body different from himself. Therefore, since Krishna has no material conception of life, how can he be affected by material prayers and accusations? Krishna's body is described herewith as Kaivalya, none different from himself. Since everyone has a material bodily conception of life, if Krishna had such a conception, what would be the difference between Krishna and the conditioned soul? Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita are accepted as final because he does not possess a material body. I'm going to hear that again. This is too much. Nice. Krishna's instructions in Bhagavad Gita are accepted as final because he does not possess a material body. As soon as one has a material body, he has 4 deficiencies. But since Krishna does not possess a material body, he has no deficiencies. He is always spiritually conscious and blissful. Ishvara Paramakri Satchidananda Vigraha. His form is eternal, blissful knowledge. Satchidananda Vigraha, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, and Kaivalya are all the same. Krishna can expand himself as Paramatma in the core of everyone's heart. In Bhagavad Gita 13, this is confirmed. Chetragyam chapimam bidi sarva chetreshu bharata. The Lord is the Paramatma, the Atma or Super Self of all individual souls. Therefore it must naturally be concluded that he has no defective bodily conceptions. Therefore it must naturally be concluded that he has no defective bodily conceptions. Although situated in everyone's body, he has no bodily conception of life. He is always free from such conceptions, and thus he cannot be affected by anything in relation to the material body of the jiva. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 16:19, Annaham krishatak kruran samvareshu naradamam chipam yajasham ashubhan Asurishve vajonishu. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are lowest among man, are cast by me into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Cast me into what? That was my next question. You're so smart. You got the question before I asked it. Master asker. Or master answer, rather. Whenever the Lord punishes persons like demons, however, such punishment is meant for the good of the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul, being envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, may accuse him, saying Krishna is bad, Krishna is a thief, and so on. But Krishna, being kind to all living entities, does not make accusations. Instead, he takes account of the conditioned soul's chanting of Krishna, Krishna, so many times. He sometimes punishes such demons for one life by putting them in a lower species, but then, when they have stopped accusing him, they are liberated in the next life because of chanting Krishna's name constantly. Blaspheming the Supreme Lord or his devotee is not at all good for the conditioned soul. And being very kind punishes the conditioned soul in one life for such sinful activities and then takes him back home, back to Godhead. The vivid example for this is Vritrasura, who was formerly Chitraketu Maharaj, a great devotee. Because he derided Lord Shiva, the foremost of all devotees, he had to accept the body of a demon called Vitra, back to Godhead. Thus, when Krishna punishes a demon or conditioned soul, he stops that soul's habit of blasphemy. And when the soul becomes completely pure, the Lord takes him back to Godhead.
Yes, Prabhu?
Srila Prabhupada mentions in this purport that the Lord is not affected by material, something like material blasphemy and material prayers.
Mm.
Yes, material prayers and accusations. So can we take, when he says material prayers, can we take this to mean non-devotional activity? Not exactly funded as a devotional prayer, but some kind of like, I mean, how do we understand that? Or is it that he is not affected by devotional service?
Yeah. He's not forced by the false ego to react in the way that the conditioned soul reacts because he doesn't have a material body. So he doesn't react materially. If one reacts spiritually, and living entities, as Kesava Maharaj just pointed out, do, because they're sentient beings, they have feelings. And so does the Lord, actually. That's proven in the pastime of Lord Varaha, when Hiranyaka was blaspheming Hiranyaka by calling him an amphibious beast. He, Prabhupada said, felt, well, more than annoyed. He was rankled by the words of this person. Now, it doesn't say that because it wasn't because of a material reason, but he has the wherewithal, being the supreme sentient being, to react. Obviously, otherwise, why would Krishna say that, indicate in the very emotional verse, Patram Palam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati, that he's moved by the bhakti when one offers him a leaf of flower, fruit, or water. So obviously moved by that, and there's a little more full explanation of this in the verse Samaham Sarvabhuteshu Nami Dveshastina Priya Ye Bhujanti Tamam Bhaktya Mai Te Teshu Chapyaham. And it's a conundrum because you're dealing with two realities side by side. But in that verse, Prabhupada explains how the Supreme Personality of Godhead reciprocates with the living entity on the spiritual platform. And so there is an emotional and spiritual reciprocation. When somebody offers heartfelt prayers, Krishna feels it. But he's not obligated to, like the conditioned soul is, to identify with a material body and have one.
He doesn't need the praise, and he doesn't need, some negative thing, because he's self-sufficient. He's already completely satisfied within himself.
Pranahari Prabhu pointed out this morning from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Leela, chapter 3, text number 52. Adi 2:52. He said that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, well, it was more in context of Haridas Thakur, understood that the Lord was pained by the sufferings of the living entities in the material world. In that this is a great opportunity for service to the Lord, because if one understands the pain the Lord feels seeing the living entities suffering in the material world and goes about trying to rescue them from that, then it relieves the pain that the Lord feels, right? And Prabhupada said this is real service. Pranahari Prabhu pointed that out in the class today. Well done. And so this is an obvious sentiment, feeling, but it's spiritual. It's related to his eternal relationship with the Lord. Sanitya nitya sambandha prakritischya parayavasa.
Would this relate to the purport we found in the last part of the 6th canto, where Srila Prabhupada says that sometimes the Lord, although he's fit to do it himself, appears to rely, he makes himself dependent on his devotee to spread his glories, and therefore this is to be taken as his greatest glory, that although he's fully independent, he independently chooses to make himself dependent.
Well, yeah, and also because that activity gives the highest pleasure, he's giving the devotee an opportunity to have that higher pleasure. And in this way, the transcendental solution to the conundrum is that even when he does something out of emotion, that appears to be anger, and he kills a demon, the demon is liberated or gets some benefit.
Prabhupada also
Therefore, it's not material.
in that section you're referring to, that it's the impetus of the devotee to pick up that order or not. He can choose to take it and rise to the occasion and receive the mercy of the Lord for doing that kind of service. In other words, it's open to everybody, but it's obviously not obligatory. So if someone chooses to do that service, then he becomes empowered by the Lord and exalted because of the Lord's mercy. Prabhu? Bring it on home.
This is a very interesting topic for me since days of yore. And I just wanted to get clear what you're trying to say, because we're dealing with two realities. And, on one side we see that the Lord is totally indifferent. We read that in Chitraketu's prayers, that he's, unaffected by the happiness and distress of the material world. Right? And now also we're hearing that the Lord is in anxiety for the suffering of the living entities in the material world. So I know.
Prabhupada said that there's only one thing he's lacking. He's complete. But there's one thing he's lacking, and that's the love of some of us. So when he sees, that's why I told that story about Krishna and the Prem Samputa. He's unhappy because he knows that we can't be happy without him. Therefore, he wants to see us back with him, because he knows that will make us happy, and that's the source of his anxiety. It's not his anxiety. It's the feeling he has for someone else's anxiety.
Does it have anything to do with the happiness and the stress of the material world?
No,
That's the point.
no, he has nothing to do with the happiness and the stress of the material world. But he when he sees the suffering in the material world, he feels anxiety. That's why he comes as Lord Chaitanya.
Regarding the point of 929, Samaham Sarvabhuteshu, I'm just taking an excerpt because you might find this helpful also. Although you've heard it many times, it helps in the right context. This is reciprocal. This also explains the words Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. Whoever surrenders unto me, proportionately I take care of him. This transcendental reciprocation exists because both the Lord and the devotees are conscious. When a diamond is set in a golden ring, it looks very nice. The gold is glorified, and at the same time, the diamond is glorified. The Lord and the living entity eternally glitter, and when a living entity becomes inclined to the service of the Supreme Lord, he looks like gold. The Lord is a diamond, and so this combination is very nice. Living entities in a pure state are called devotees. The Supreme Lord becomes the devotee of his devotees. If a reciprocal relationship is not present between the devotee and the Lord, then there is no personalist philosophy. In the impersonal philosophy, there is no reciprocation between the Supreme Lord and the living entity, but in the personalist philosophy there is. The example is often given that the Lord is like a desire tree, and whatever one wants from this desire tree, the Lord supplies. But here the explanation is more complete. The Lord is here stated to be partial to the devotees. This is the manifestation of the Lord's special mercy to the devotees. The Lord's reciprocation should not be considered to be under the law of karma. It belongs to the transcendental situation in which the Lord and his devotees function. Devotional service to the Lord is not an activity of this material world. It is part of the spiritual world where eternity, bliss, and knowledge predominate. 929. Samaham Sarvabhuteshu. And we're almost done here. Did you finish 25 or no? Finished? Purport finished? That brings us to the Gayatri break. Same for the Lord, because of his blissful position, is never affected by enmity or friendship. Purport: from this verse, one should not conclude that because Krishna is unaffected by prayers or unfavorable blasphemy, one should therefore blaspheme the Supreme Lord. This is not the regulative principle. Bhakti Yoga means anakulyena Krishna nushilanam. One should serve Krishna very favorably. This is the real injunction. Here it is said that although an enemy thinks of Krishna unfavorably, the Lord is unaffected by devotional service. Thus he offers his benediction even to Shishupal and similarly inimical conditioned souls. This does not mean, however, to be inimical toward the Lord. The stress is given to the favorable execution of devotional service, not purposeful blasphemy of the Lord. It is said, Nindam Bhagavata Shrindams Tat Parasya Janasya Va Tato Na Paiti Yasopi Yat Yada Sukrit Tashritaha. One who hears blasphemy of the Supreme Personality devotee should immediately or should leave. Otherwise, he will be life perpetually. There are many such injunctions. Therefore, as a regulative principle, one should not be unfavorable towards the Lord, but always favorably inclined toward him. Shishupal's achievement of oneness with the Supreme Lord was different from Jai and Vijay. From the very beginning of their... Shishupal's achievement of oneness with the Supreme Lord was different because Jai and Vijay, from the very beginning of their material existence, were ordained to treat the Supreme Lord as an enemy for 3 lives and then return home back to Godhead. Jai and Vijay inwardly knew that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they purposefully became his enemies to be delivered from material life. From the very beginning of their lives, they thought of Lord Krishna as an enemy, and even though blaspheming Lord Krishna, they chanted the holy name of Krishna constantly along with their inimical thoughts. Thus they were purified because of chanting the holy name of Krishna. It is to be understood that even a blasphemer can be freed from sinful activities by chanting the holy name of the Lord. Certainly, therefore, freedom is assured for a devotee who is always favorable to the service of the Lord. This will be clear from the following verse. By rapt attention fixed on Krishna, one is purified, and thus one is delivered from material life. That's an important statement because it doesn't say whether it's favorable or unfavorable. This is part of the context of this section. Certainly, by rapt attention fixed upon Krishna, one is purified, and thus one is delivered from material life. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has very nicely explained the word bhayena, which means by fear. When the gopis went to Krishna in the dead of night, they certainly feared chastisement by their relatives, husbands, brothers, and fathers. But nonetheless, not caring for their relatives, they went to Krishna. There was certainly fear, but this fear could not check their devotional service to Krishna. One should not mistakenly think that Lord Krishna must be worshipped by an inimical attitude like that of Shishupal. Accept only favorable conditions in devotional service. Generally, if one blasphemes the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is punished. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 16:19, Tanaham dvishata kroran samsareshu naradhaman shripam ajasram ashubhan asur. Such injunctions. One should not try to worship Krishna unfavorably, otherwise he must be punished, at least for one life, to be purified. As one should not try to be killed by embracing an enemy, a tiger or a snake. Blaspheme the Supreme Personality of Godhead and become his enemy in order to be put into hellish life. The purpose of this verse is to emphasize that even the enemy of the Lord can be delivered, not to speak of his friend. Srila Madhvacharya also says, in many ways, that one should not blaspheme Lord Vishnu through one's mind, words, or actions, for a blasphemer will go to hellish life along with his forefathers. Karmanam manasa vacha yodvishyad vishnu avyayam vajanti pitarastasya narake shashvati sama. In Bhagavad Gita 16:19 through 20, the Lord says, Tanaham dvishata kroran samsamari naradaman shripam ajasram ashubhan asurasveva yonishu asurim yonamapana mudha janmani janmani mama prapyaiva kaunteya tato yantyaramangatim. Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the among men, are cast by me into the ocean of material existence, into various demoniac species of life. Attaining repeated birth among demoniac life, such persons can never approach me. Gradually they sink down to the most abominable type of existence. One who blasphemes the Lord is put into a family of asuras, in which there is every chance of forgetting the service of the Lord. Lord Krishna further states in Bhagavad Gita 9:11 through 12, Avajananti mam buddha manushim tanumash padam. Blaspheme like a human being. They don't have the opulence of the Supreme Personality. Mughasha mughakarmano mughavicetasaha rakshasima surim chaiva prakritim mohinim shrita. Anything done by those who have taken the attitude of enemies try to be liberated or to merge into the existence of Brahman if they desire to be elevated to the higher planetary systems as karmis, or even if they desire to. As far as Hiranyakashipu, although he was extremely inimical toward the Supreme Personality Godhead, he completely absorbed and deficient in the integration of being feelingly absorbed in Krishna. This does not mean, however, that the enemies of Krishna are than Krishna's pure way. I madhai hoite vi she prapushta. Puri shera kita hoite mui se lagishta. I am a worse sinner than Jagai and Madai, and I am even lower than the worms in the stool. A pure devotee than everyone else. If a devotee approaches Srimati Radharani to offer some service to Krishna, even Srimati Radharani thinks that the devotee is greater than she. Thus Narada Muni says that according to his are better situated because they are fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna in terms of killing him, just as a very lusty man always thinks of women and their. The essential point in this connection is fully absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. Devotees in Rag Marg, which is Ras, Sukiras, all the devotees of Krishna are. When Krishna is away from Vrindavana tending the cows in the forest, the gopis in the Madhurya Ras are always absorbed in thoughts of how Krishna walks in the forest. The soles of his feet soft breasts, and Krishna. Yet those lotus feet, which is full of thorny plants, the gopis are absorbed in such thoughts away from them. Similarly, when Krishna plays with his young friends, Mother Yashoda is very much disturbed because of always playing and not properly, must be getting weak. These are examples of the exalted ecstasy felt in Krishna's service as manifested praised by no, especially for the conditioned soul. The thought of Krishna became free from envy. Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda were fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness because of affection. When the mind is somehow or other fully absorbed in Krishna, the material part is very soon vanquished, and the spiritual part, attraction to Krishna, becomes manifest. This indirectly confirms that if one thinks of Krishna enviously, simply because of thinking of Krishna, he becomes free from all sinful reactions and thus becomes a pure devotee. Examples of this are given in the following verse.
Text 31. Ngopyakka madbayat kangso dvishach jayadayo nipaha sambandhad vishnayak snedan yuyam bhaktya vayam vibo yuyam bhaktya vayam vibo yuyam bhaktya vayam vibo. My dear King Yudhishthir, the gopis, by their lusty desires, by fear, Shishupal and other kings by envy, the Yadus by their familial relationship with Krishna, you Pandavas by your great affection for Krishna, and we, the general devotees, by our devotional service, have obtained the mercy of Krishna. Purport. Different persons achieve different kinds of mukti, sayuja, salokya, sarupya, samipya, and sarshti, according to their own intense desire, which is called bhava. Thus it is described here that the gopis, by their lusty desires, which were based upon their intense love for Krishna, became the most beloved devotees of the Lord. Although the devotees at Vrindavan expressed their lusty desires in relationship with the paramour, parakya rasa, they actually had no lusty desires. This is significant of spiritual advancement. Their desires appeared lusty, but actually they were not the lusty desires of the material world. Chaitanya Charitamrita compares the desires of the spiritual and material world to gold and iron, Both gold and iron are metal, but there is a vast difference in their value. The lusty desires of the gopis for Krishna are compared to gold, and material lusty desires are compared to iron. Kamsa and other enemies of Krishna merged into the existence of Brahman, but why should Krishna's friends and devotees have the same position? Krishna's devotees attain the association of the Lord as his constant companions, either in Vrindavan or in the Vaikuntha planets. Similarly, although Narada Muni wanders in the three worlds, he has exalted devotion for Narayana, Aishvaryaman. The Vrishnis and Yadus and the father and mother of Krishna in Vrindavan all have familiar relationships with Krishna. Krishna's foster father and mother in Vrindavan, however, are more exalted than Vasudeva and Devaki. 32. Somehow or other, one must consider the form of Krishna very seriously. Then, by one of the 5 different processes mentioned above, one can return home, back to Godhead. Atheists, like King Vena, however, being unable to think of Krishna's form in any of these 5 ways, cannot attain salvation. Therefore one must somehow think of Krishna, whether in a friendly way or inimically. Purport. Impersonalists and atheists also try to circumvent, always try to circumvent the form of Krishna. Great politicians and philosophers of the modern age even try to banish Krishna from Bhagavad Gita. Consequently, for them there is no salvation. But Krishna's enemies think, here is Krishna, my enemy, I have to kill him. They think of Krishna in his actual form, and thus they attain salvation. Devotees, therefore, who constantly think of Krishna's form are certainly liberated. The only business of the Mayavadi atheists is to make Krishna formless. And consequently, because of this severe offense at the lotus feet of Krishna, they cannot expect salvation. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in this connection, Tina Shishupaladi Bina Pratikula Bhavam Didishur Yena Eva Narakam Yatiti Bhavaha. Except for Shishupal, those who go against the regulated principles cannot attain salvation and are surely destined for hellish life. The regulated principle is that one must always think of Krishna, whether as a friend or enemy. Text 33. Narada Muni continued, O best of the Pandavas, your 2 cousins, Shishupal and Dantavakra, the sons of your maternal aunt, were formerly associates of Lord Vishnu, but because they were cursed by Brahmanas, they fell from Vaikuntha to this material world. Purport. Shishupal and Dantavakra were not ordinary demons, but were formerly personal associates of Lord Vishnu. They apparently fell to this material world, but actually they came to assist the Supreme Personality of Godhead by nourishing his pastimes within this world. Text 34. Maharaja Yudhishthira inquired, what kind of great curse could affect even liberated Vishnu Bhaktas, and what sort of person could curse even the Lord's associates? For unflinching devotees of the Lord to fall again to this material world is impossible. I cannot believe this. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 8:16, the Lord clearly states, Mamope tukonteya punajanma navidyate. One who is purified of material contamination and returns home back to Godhead does not return to this material world. Elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vedi tatvadaha chaktadeham punar janma naitimam eti sorjana. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Maharaja Yudhishthira therefore was surprised that a pure devotee could return to this material world? This is certainly a very important question. Text 35. The bodies of the inhabitants of Vaikuntha are completely spiritual, having nothing to do with the material body, senses, or life air. Therefore kindly explain how associates of the personality of Godhead were cursed to descend in material bodies like ordinary persons. Purport. This very significant question would be difficult for an ordinary person to answer, but Narada Muni, being an authority, could answer it. Therefore Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired from him, saying, Etad akyatum arasi, only you can explain the reason. From authoritative sources it can be discerned that associates of Lord Vishnu who descend from Vaikuntha Loka do not actually fall. They come with the purpose of fulfilling the desire of the Lord, and their descent to this material world is comparable to that of the Lord. The Lord comes to this material world through the agency of his internal potency, and similarly, when a devotee or associate of the Lord descends to this material world, he does so through the action of the spiritual energy. Any pastime conducted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead is an arrangement by Yogamaya, not Mahamaya. Therefore it is to be understood that when Jai and Vijay descended to this material world, they came because there was something to be done for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Otherwise, it is a fact that no one falls from Vaikuntha. Of course, a living entity who desires Sayuja Mukti remains in Krishna's Brahman effulgence, which is dependent on Krishna's body. Brahmano hi pratishtaham. Such an impersonalist who takes shelter of the Brahman effulgence must surely fall down. This is stated in the Shastra. Yeyen daksha vimuktimaninas tvayastabhavat avishuddha buddhayaha arura krichtrina padam tadag patantyado nadrita yushpadangrayaha patantyado nadrita yushpadangrayaha. O Lord, the intelligence of those who think themselves liberated but who have no devotion is impure. Even though they rise to the highest point of liberation by dint of severe penances and austerities, they are sure to fall down again into material existence. For they do not take shelter at your lotus feet. The impersonalists cannot reach the Vaikuntha planets to become associates of the Lord, and therefore, according to their desires, Krishna gives them Sayuja Mukti. However, since Sayuja Mukti is partial Mukti, they must fall again to this material world. When it is said that the individual soul falls from Brahmaloka, this applies to the impersonalist. From authoritative sources, it is learned that Jai and Vijay were sent to this material world to fulfill the Lord's desire to fight. The Lord also sometimes wants to fight. But who can fight with the Lord but a very confidential devotee of the Lord? Jai and Vijay descended to this world to fulfill the Lord's desire. Therefore, in each of their three births, first as Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, second as Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and third as Shishupal and Dantavakra, the Lord personally killed them. In other words, these associates of the Lord, Jai and Vijay, descended to the material world to serve the Lord by fulfilling his desire to fight. Otherwise, as Maharaj Yudhishthira says, Ashadayeya iva bhati. The statement that the servant of the Lord could fall from Vaikuntha seems unbelievable. How Jai and Vijay came to this material world is explained by Narada Muni as follows. I'm going. See you.
And that reminds me of a story in the Denver airport. Every day we used to go for a rush in the C terminal. And there was a security guard who, at that time, we could take our books through the security. And every day when we go through, she'd try to slow us down by taking the box off the conveyor belt, putting it in the check area, the hand check area, and she would go through. There were about 20 books in a box. She'd take every one of them out, and she'd go through each one of them really slowly, like this, like she was checking for a bomb or something like that. And she knew full well that we were in a hurry, but she tried to slow us down. And she did that for 3 months straight. And then one day I came back on a Sunday, and I was at the back of the temple, and one of the devotees came up and nudged me and said, "Hey, who's that lady standing up there at the front?" And I said, "No, it couldn't be." I was like, "Yes, it was." And she became a devotee. And so by the constant everyday contact with the Bhagavatam, that's what it was, the first canto of the Bhagavatam, going through like this, she became a devotee. Just an anecdotal. Yes, Prabhu?
That reminds me of somebody else will remember this story, I remember his name. He was also distributing books in the airport, and one of the security guards there, I believe, would constantly throw pennies at him.
Oh, yeah, it's in my book. That's Sarvapalma.
Yeah, Sarvapalma Prabhu. Yeah, and
This big, huge guy. He was an African-American, gigantic. Could have been like a big-time wrestler. He used to push the wheelchairs back and forth. And he hated Sarvapalma and the devotees. So the way he harassed him, even though he was in a uniform, he had to be a little tactful how he did it. Every day when he'd walk by Sarvapalma, he'd flick pennies at him, as if Sarvapalma was just like a beggar, so here's your pennies. But he'd flick them hard, so sometimes if you were close and it would hit him, he would be pelted. And when Sarva was talking to somebody, he'd come by and he'd flick him, and it would hit him either in the foot or in the hand. And Sarva every time would reach down and he'd pick it up and go, "Thank you." Like, he really appreciated it. And that went on for months. And then one day, he came over and he gave Sarva a big bear hug. And he said, "You're all right." And then from that day on, he became Sarva's protector. If anybody came in there and tried to harass him, he would show up and he was like, you want to bother him? You want a piece of me? The penny principle of how people, they start with some small thing. And that ends the reading from this morning's from the Srimad Bhagavatam this morning. We're going to take it up again. We're going to take it up at 3:30 this afternoon. Thank you very much. Go Premanande. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Bo. Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. 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 Hari Bo. Nitai Gaura Hari Bo. Vanchakoptarishcha Kripasanabevacha Patitanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Nantakoti Vaishnaveniki Jai Ho.
Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, hey, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman, Nachari Armarman.